Osiyo, it's how we say hello in Cherokee. I'm your host, Jennifer Lauren, taking in the beautiful skyline in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Cherokee people live across the globe, but a large number of us call the bustling city of Tulsa home. One Cherokee Nation citizen with Tulsa roots is supermodel and actress Amber Valletta. On both the runway and the big screen, she has drawn eyes from all over the world. Amber's eyes remain firmly focused on the future, marking environmental activism as the next chapter in her journey.
I think that when people really remember fashion images, it's because they are capturing some piece of the soul, not just a beautiful image. And I'm trying to be really cognizant to bring life in what I'm doing that people will relate to and see, and that it's not just an empty shell of a human being. I'm Amber Valletta, and I'm from Tulsa. I have been a model for 35 years in the fashion industry. I've worked at the highest level in fashion. Fame is also really uncomfortable, but at the same time, I appreciate everything that has been given to me by the public. I grew up in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and my mother was a single parent. I had a lot of cousins, lots of aunts and uncles. I spent every weekend at my grandparents' farm, and they had a beautiful natural spring that ran through the property. We swung from vines and fell into the water and chased crawdads and ran from snakes. I'm from that probably last generation that came home by like somebody yelling dinner time or a cowbell or whatever. It was a lot of fun. So when I was younger, or when I was a child, my mother, my aunts and uncles, and their friends were, I think, by default, became activists. They just were trying to stop a nuclear power plant from being built in an area called Black Fox.
We started to protest for Black Fox. She was little then, but her and her brother were loaded up and carted downtown to protest in Tulsa, in the streets of downtown Tulsa. And they were great. They'd shout and do, be pretty active.
And I remember it very well because it's one of my fondest memories of growing up, because we got to yell outside of these obviously important buildings downtown Tulsa. But I also knew that we were rebelling a little, in a way. And I don't know, there's a bit of a rebel in me, in a good way, but a rebel nonetheless. When I was in school, we would, they ask you like, where's your family from? And I was always really proud to say I was American Indian, and specifically Cherokee, and then have the other part of my bloodline being European and Italian and Portuguese, which no one here in Oklahoma was. So I was just really, I liked that I was different. I liked that I had strong heritage. I still do.
Amber grew up right here in Tulsa. Got her start with the Linda Lehman Agency.
The fact that this career fell into my hands, I just think I had a little bit of ambition and sort of innocence and wanting to just like see other parts of the world. Once I started succeeding, I came home with money.
She collects a cool $25,000 every time she walks down the runway. She's only 21, and she's made it to the big time.
And then they kept calling, right? So it was hard to say no to. And then I thought, I'll do it for a year, and then I'll go to school. Well, that year came and went, 35 years later. As active as I am still, like I'll still go on the runway, and I'm the oldest person there, and I'm not even sure some of the girls have any clue who I am. I'm like, they're probably like, whose mom is here? Like, she needs to get out of the lineup. And then when they figure it out, I'm sure they're like, oh, so it's kind of funny. Yeah, I'm still on the runway and walking with the 20-year-olds. Wow, the 90s were so much fun. and so creative within the fashion industry. There was all of the kind of incredible creatives, from photography to the people that are kind of the leaders, masters of today. And then you had a whole new young generation that came in at the same time as Shalom Harlow, who's one of my best friends, Kate Moss, who's one of my best friends. And we became friends with the supermodels, the OGs, and we would go out and they would, they took us under their wings. And then, all these amazing designers, many of them are not alive today, were still alive, like Karl Lagerfeld.
Amber, what do you try to project when you're walking down
There
the
were just so many mega powerhouses and so much creativity, and you had all these new designers coming in. Just so many creatives coming in, and the industry was pre-digital and pre-Instagram and all that fun stuff. And the magazines were really prolific. And it was just a very, very creative time in fashion. And then personally, my career was huge.
One of the most sought after supermodels in the world. Please welcome the lovely Amber Valletta.
I was on a cover of a magazine almost every month. So if you didn't see me, you still saw me, or in an ad or whatever. And it was a good time. It was a really good time. And then there was some, I hit some bumps. I would never blame the industry I was in, fashion, on my addiction. I think that I come by it naturally. I know that it's in my family lineage and on both sides of my family. And I know that I saw active alcoholism and addiction. I was really young and scared, and I didn't know how to just articulate that. And the drugs and the alcohol were really like a way to alleviate that. I was really lucky. There was support a block away from my house in New York City, and I started seeking that support. And I'm so grateful today I have a community of people who anywhere in the world, I can feel at home with. I took a break from modeling when my son was born, and I had started acting and done one film before he was born, and that was What Lies Beneath with Harrison Ford and Michelle Pfeiffer. I took a break, went to live in LA to raise my son, and I started getting back into acting when he was a little bit older, maybe a year or two. That's when I did Hitch. Yeah, he was 3 when I did Hitch. I think maybe because I had him, I started thinking about what's happening in the world around me and in the environment. And I'd always felt sort of a disconnect between what I do for a living and my values. Once I started learning about the environment more and more, and climate change was sort of like this hypothetical big thing, maybe. But it was still, I was like, whoa, that seems like something we should all be focusing on. I couldn't go back with just the same sort of mentality as before. I knew way too much, and I knew a lot about the fashion industry's pollution and human rights issues with laborers. And I just thought, if I'm coming back to try to change things or to lead through my values. And my values were people and planet are first. I started speaking at conferences. I started, poking the bear at work. I started, with brands. I'm Amber Valletta, a model, an actress, an activist, and the sustainability ambassador at Karl Lagerfeld.
Karl has been a huge friend and mentor to Amber since she was 17. And at some point, Amber actually approached Karl with the idea of a sustainable collection to be done together as the Karl Lagerfeld brand.
To design in a way that's more sustainable for the planet and for people and for our industry long term.
Amber is not only our sustainability ambassador, she's an integral part of our leadership team when it comes to all sustainability matters.
I just think there's like a really big missed opportunity. People look at fashion for setting trends. Well, the trend should be that we make things better. We can actually create more clothing from all of the clothes we have on the planet right now. It's just gonna take innovation and it's gonna take creativity.
It says where I'm born, who I'm born to, and then my grandparents, Sequoia Lewis Rogers and Mary Jean Garrison. 5th generation, William Charles Rogers.
My family was the long-haired clan. We were peacemakers. I'm a peacemaker.
Last chief of the Cherokees, W.C. Rogers.
Someone gifted that to me who knew that I was related to him. That
cool.
They were shopping in an antique store and found that.
I thought it was really interesting that he was the last chief before statehood.
I can feel the urgency and the need to do peacemaking work.
She far surpasses me in activism, but it really makes me proud. It really does.
It is where I want to focus because I believe that we have the ability to create change through commerce and business, and it might be the only way. It might be one of the few solutions. I want to continue to try to do more for the community. The one last thing I'll say is that I was always really proud of my heritage, both my father's side and my mother's side, and I was really proud that my grandfather and great-grandmother and their side of the family is Cherokee, and Cherokee Nation is, a thriving tribe that serves its people. What greater teacher is that than to see your community help each other? And we care about our land and our natural resources because I'm 100% positive that's where it comes from. I don't think it's like just, like by surprise that I'm like, that this feels so a part of me, and it makes sense, when I look at the people that are in my lineage from what I understand.